So, as usual, happy Friday, everybody. Welcome to our bi-weekly Eastside Wrap meeting, where we discuss impacts related to homelessness on the east side of Santa Barbara, Land and Rank with SB Act. And this is a partnership with the city of Santa Barbara as part of this kind of broader South County-wide coalition called the Act on Homelessness Collaborative, trying to address homelessness throughout the whole region. So we are here today to talk about impacts of homelessness on the east side, and I'm just going to start with a few general announcements. I just have a couple quick things today. Our next meeting as a group, as usual, will be 2 weeks from today, the 18th. I'm going to come back to that. I did want to note the warming center season is officially over. So as of March 31st, there will not be any more warming shelters during rainy days, since we don't have as many rainy days after March 31st, typically. So thank you to everyone who participated in that. I know they were activated several times, especially in the month of March. It really came up. So appreciate that being a possibility thanks to the help of community volunteers as well as Good Samaritan and the county. Um, and then Liz and Oscar, I don't know if you want to share too, where you're at with inclement weather beds at this point. Is that season over for Path as well?
Never ends for us. So
Okay.
anytime, no matter when it is during the year, if there is rain or inclement weather, like crazy winds, extremely cold temperatures, that type of thing, we'll open additional beds.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. So we will direct people that way as needed. So I'm going to go back here. Just a reminder to everybody, we do have these in kind of a little wallet-sized card form that you can have if you'd like one. Just let me know. I'll put my email in the chat. But just a reminder, there's a lot of different resources available for addressing different kinds of homelessness issues. Really want to encourage everybody, if you do see somebody who's appearing to be having some kind of a mental health crisis, to call that non-emergency behavioral health hotline down at the bottom, the behavioral health access line. Now, of course, if they're presenting a threat to themselves or others, it's a 911 call. Please don't hesitate on that. But we do know that, some people are just going through a hard time with their mental health or maybe a substance use related incident. And if it's not an emergency, we encourage you to call that behavioral health access line. So yeah, I'm gonna put my email in the chat. Please do reach out if you'd like to get any of these cards for you or your staff or people you know who you think might benefit from just having that in your wallet in case as you're going about your daily life. I did want to give a second before we go to our community members. We have with us today Cassie Roach from the Safe Parking Program. I really appreciate you making some time to be here, Cassie. Um, since we've been talking a little bit more about some of the vehicular encampments, especially on Quarantina, and just around the east side in general, I was hoping you could just share a little bit about kind of what all is being done through the safe parking program on the east side. I believe, and I don't know how much of this you're able to talk about, but I believe some of these particular encampments on the east side were added to the SURF project, where we're able to actually direct more resources to them thanks to a grant from the state. So I'm just hoping you can provide a little update, and then there may be questions from the community.
Sure. Thank you for having me. So we did just in the past couple weeks officially get approval from the state to add Quarantina as an encampment zone or kind of a flow through between two of our other encampment zones. Uh, and the city we worked with to identify kind of the biggest hotspot area. And we're actually going back to them on Tuesday to see if we can further expand that because we're recognizing multiple blocks around Quarantina are also significantly impacted. And the original area that we identified is no longer the only most pressing hotspot. It's kind of the whole region. And so we're hoping on Tuesday to finalize that conversation and quickly get approval for increasing to the entire area. But we have had staff go out. Even just this morning, staff were out doing fulcrum and trying to contact folks to get them connected with SURF and further case management services, and ultimately working to get people housed and out of the encampments. Our traditional safe parking staff have been doing outreach in the area as able to, but now with the SURF ability to really have more manpower, put to that area. We also just in general are significantly increasing our outreach efforts over the next 2 months before the end of this, or 3 months rather, the end of this next fiscal year. We're going to be having all of our surf staff, our safe parking staff, and we're even any of our other staff that are wanting to do some additional outreach and overtime. It's kind of an all hands on deck, and the Quarantina area is kind of the biggest hotspot and focus point for us. So we'll be having a lot of staff out there and really trying to connect with folks. So if there's anyone, any like vehicle in particular, or any like this block of Quarantina, this block of Cesar Chavez, we're open to any of that feedback as well.
Hi, Cassie. This is Susie. I work for Marburg. Nice to
Yes.
make the acquaintance. And we definitely have had several situations within the corridor where our portable restroom division is located at that corner. And before you get to the C&D yard on the left-hand side. A lot of that, the personnel that are living in those campers tend to migrate into the street. So what does it look like when your team goes out there and talks to them? Because I, you know, I know that there's several individuals that have been there for some time and are doing illegal dumping and so forth. So what does that conversation look like when your team goes out there?
It's trying to contact someone in general. Sometimes we'll knock on the door and no one's there, or they just aren't answering. So we are varying the times in which we go, including early morning, evenings, and weekends, to try and make sure we're catching people. And then it's making sure they're aware of resources and trying to convince them to join the program and take advantage of the resources that are available, and informing them that this is not the safest place for you to be. The streets are getting pretty overcrowded, and with the visibility and Marburg trucks coming through, like it's just not the best place, and it's gaining a lot of attention, and hoping that we can work with them to get them to a different location and a better spot and better resource connection. Some folks are more open, and some we're just going to have to keep having the conversation.
Okay, thank you.
For some of the because the illicit activities have been brought up before, but mainly like around illegal dumping, that kind of thing. With that kind of stuff, we've encouraged community members to report that to code enforcement through the normal means. But is that helpful to share that kind of information with you as well in case your team knows the client in question or the individual in question?
Yeah, that can be helpful, because we usually will send them to Marburg for with because I think you all still do the free septic tank dumping.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, so we make sure folks are aware of that, and okay, there's this readily available access to a resource. You got to take advantage of it. Like it's not okay. You have an option very close to where you're currently staying. You got to be taking advantage of that. So we can.
Although I don't know that I would want some of these individuals to be driving their campers if, because I think there's some drug activity going on in some of them. So.
So for some of these issues, though, I think that the safe parking general contact info is also available on these cards we have. But if you're able to share that also in the chat window, that would be great, Cassie. Are there other questions or comments for Cassie and the safe parking team? All right. Well, we'll be checking in then, I guess, next week, or at least by our next wrap meeting to hear whether that region is able to be expanded, because again, that would enable there to be more resources directed to the whole neighborhood. So thank you. Thanks for being here, Cassie. We appreciate it. If you can stick around for a few minutes, we're going to just hear from community members. So we'll go ahead and open it up if there's issues from the community or questions that anybody wants to bring up, and then we'll go to service providers after that.
I have a question for Andrew. I just wanted to confirm that the power washing and litter cleanup has been going on as on Quarantina as well as this week.
Yeah, definitely. So it did kick off, I believe it was last week was when everything actually went into place. But in terms of the power washing, the Milpas, Cacique, Quarantina, and Cesar Chavez underpasses are cleaned, picked up of litter and power washed every Tuesday and Friday. Um, this is in addition to the just general litter pickup, that we do of those locations on Thursdays, but those are like extended litter pickups that are doing larger stretches of Quarantina and Cesar Chavez. So that power washing on Tuesdays and Fridays is more targeted at those underpass locations. Um, so far the reports have been good from the contractor. It's still a challenge because again people come back quickly and it's so they're still impacting the area, but I think we're making steps in the right direction.
Thank you.
Thank you, Susie. Other questions or concerns? Go ahead, Jose.
Yes, my question is to Liz Adams. With your clients at PATH, how's it going to work out for them to get into housing because the federal government has been doing a lot of cutbacks? And it was a couple of weeks ago, I even spoke with Rob Friedrichs over the phone, and he and we know each other. And I asked him what's going on, and he says, yeah, they're not going to be handing out any Section 8 vouchers. And just recently, on Josh Molina's podcast, Santa Barbara Talks, which I haven't watched it yet, he's, speaking with Rob Friedrichs. So my question is how the clients at PATH, how are they going to get into housing if the federal government is, cutting back on the vouchers for Section 8? That's my question.
Yeah, it makes an already challenging job much more challenging, unfortunately. So we know in general there's a housing shortage in Santa Barbara, affordable housing even more difficult to find, and that's always been the case, and that's why it's always so challenging to get people permanently housed. And so now, as there are no more new vouchers, that's a huge resource that has been taken away, removed from our community. So it's just going to be that much more difficult to get people housed, and we'll most likely see that people's stays in interim housing and shelters will increase as it becomes more difficult to get people housed. So just like we're really like making sure that we're just doubling down on efforts to, support people in increasing their income and getting employment when they're able to work and accessing other benefits that might be available to them, and working with partners for affordable housing opportunities and units. We're hoping in the next few months to be putting a lot of focus as well into like building kind of a like housing inventory as we build additional relationships with landlords who have affordable units for folks, so that we kind of have a running tally of like available affordable units that will kind of help with that process as we have people ready to be housed. But yeah, it's gonna suck for the community as a whole, because what that means, right, for all of us, when people are staying in interim housing longer, we're not able to cycle people from the streets into the shelter, into housing, and bring new people in. And the safe parking, the RVs will all be affected by it, because similarly, if our safe parking is full, we can't bring the RVs that are on the streets into safe parking. Can't get people out of safe parking into housing when there's no housing. So I will probably see a pretty big impact in our community with the loss of vouchers, unfortunately.
Thank you.
And Liz, without going too much into the weeds, are you able to share what are the other housing resources that exist besides Section 8?
Yeah, actually, Oscar, do you want to share a little bit about?
What was, yeah, yes. What was the question, Landon?
Just if you could share for the community, kind of what are some of the other options besides Section 8, since that's not going to be an option right now, if you want to get into permanent housing.
Yeah, so I mean, one of the other options is permanent supportive housing. So that is another, avenue, is getting somebody into permanent supportive housing. Another avenue that is rapid rehousing as well. So getting somebody into short-term housing, rental assistance. So there's the rapid rehousing, permanent supportive housing. Um, we've talked about this, but the shelters. So that is another avenue. Unfortunately, is getting somebody into a shelter, emergency shelter. Um, Other avenues is just making like sober living. If somebody's interested in sober living, somebody dealing with substance abuse, getting them into a sober living. For those that are experiencing, substance abuse, there's also residential as well. So there are other opportunities. It just depends on what type of housing the individual is looking for, whether it's permanent supportive housing, rapid rehousing, sober living, residential detox is also another, opportunity. So it just depends on the client need.
I'll add to like people's self-help housing is an opportunity that we help our folks apply for affordable housing through people's self-help housing. Senior living, we have a lot of we have quite a few of people who are in our interim housing site are older adults, so really working to get them into housing that's specifically for low-income seniors too is going to be really important.
I think in all this too, we'll be trying to get out more word of when there's opportunities to advocate for housing in our community, especially for these types of populations. Because often, an affordable housing project will go before whoever it may be, whatever board, and there's often opposition for a variety of reasons. So we do need people to show up and say, "Hey, we really just need this in our community right now." So if you're interested in being a part of that, let me know, and we can add you to the list. Thanks, Jose, for the question. Appreciate it.
I want to add too, just because this is kind of top of mind from an event that I went to last night, but I asked Cato presented about all of their programs, and they have residential treatment programs for substance abuse disorders. And I had asked because there's a long wait list always for somebody to get into those programs. And when we're working with people, it often takes a really long time to get somebody to a place where they're ready to access those programs and to get sober. And so when they get to that place and then you go out and you're like, all right, let's get you into a program. It's like, you got, okay, 30 to 45 days, you can go. Well, by that time, they're not always still willing and able to go into the program. And so I just asked the question, like, how many additional units do we need as a community to like really serve the population? And they said that they would be able to fill another 100 beds in their residential program. So just another little note for everybody, if there are those opportunities to advocate and to think about, these other residential options, that's a really big need in our community.
Yeah, thank you. Any other questions or concerns from the community? All right. Then we will go around for check-ins from the different service providers and city staff. So why don't we start with Path?
Happy Friday. My name is Oscar. Doing our regular outreach Monday through Friday, connecting people with services, trying to get them engaged into the coordinated entry system or Path Street outreach. Really haven't had any concerns with the public or the businesses around Path. So just trying to connect individuals into services.
Thank you, Oscar. Um, Cassie, I don't know if you have any updates just from the last week. I think you shared most of it, but any Eastside updates you want to share?
Oh, I think that was the gist of it. Thank you.
Great. Andrew, code enforcement.
Thanks, Landon. Yeah, from our end in code enforcement, again, those underpass areas, kind of an area of high priority right now. Um, Again, it's mainly in a lot of those campers. We do experience some encampments on the sidewalk, but we kind of address those on a case by case basis, and we do find that the power washing kind of makes it inconvenient to remain at those locations. Otherwise, we're continuing to address a lot of things. I'd say they're more out of sight in terms of the east side. A lot of things along the tracks, down towards the bird refuge, things that the general public may not see as much. But that's kind of been our main focus is working with those individuals and trying to get outreach there, just kind of in partnership to lessen the impact. So um, all in all, for the east side, it's been challenging, kind of with some of the weather lately and the wind and whatnot. I know a lot of people are moving back under the underpasses to seek shelter, and then they take off. So we're getting there's a lot of movement for us to kind of keep track of, but um, sort of best we can do is tackle things as they come up. So
Uh, that reminded me too. Thank you, Andrew. I should have mentioned there's been a significant clearing along the railroad property by Union Pacific Railroad. They do this sporadically throughout the year. It usually results in people leaving the railroad property and then coming back, a few weeks later, unfortunately. But it does mean that people are kind of displaced temporarily. And so it is really important that if you all can help us by reporting things through SB Connect, if you see someone, especially in a new place where you haven't seen someone before, because it may be somebody that their case manager is looking for them and they can't find them because they're no longer at their usual spot. So please continue to help us by pointing out when you do see encampments or people who might be in need of assistance. And then Sergeant Beltran.
Yeah, thanks. So really one of the updates is I'm actually moving, well, I'm not moving positions. I'm kind of sort of moving roles. I'm moving into overseeing this unit, but a sergeant is going to take my spot. I actually was technically promoted a couple weeks ago to lieutenant. So then now there's going to be another sergeant. I don't know if anyone has dealt with him, but Sergeant Bruno Peterson, super great. He's actually worked in this unit as an officer before, but now that he's a sergeant, he's going to take it over. He should start the first week of May, but he has a lot of experience. He'll be great. Really hard worker, and we're going to be losing maybe two other officers on the team, but gaining one back. And last week we started with the two that are working evening hours, Wednesday through Saturday. Their hours kind of are flexible, but they generally speaking work like more like a 4 or 2 o'clock to midnight type schedule. And they're all over the city, but they do address the east side, lower east side areas too. And then in this new position, I also oversee traffic and parking, and I'm learning a lot more about the specifics of our parking officers. So one of my biggest things, I started to talk to Sergeant Klug about some of the issues on Quarantina, and we're trying to figure out, and this is a new role for me, so I'm trying to navigate the role right now and learn it, but I'm trying to figure out how we can focus a lot of efforts down there without necessarily neglecting some of the other areas that they kind of have to focus on just by the nature of their business they have to do. So we're going to try to work on something to deal with that. And I don't have an update as far as the oversized vehicle ordinance, but we're just trying to address those challenges while staying within the scope and the boundaries of our standard operating procedures and law and everything else. So a couple challenges, but also new positions being filled and people trying to figure out their their roles and everything. So that's really the update that I have. That's it.
Well, congratulations. You're gonna have to update your Zoom name.
Oh yeah, thank you.
Liz, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. And another update for us, I just wanted to add, sorry, I'm a little slow today. My brain's done with the week. It's ready for the weekend. But we are going to increase our presence in the community as well, just beyond our outreach team. We're going to be adding like another 3 scheduled rotations throughout the day, morning, midday, and evening, that will be doing kind of full rounds and doing trash pickup during that as well. So I just wanted to put that out there, and I thought of it too when you put your note, Natasha, that when our outreach team is out there doing rounds, like we do our best to clean up when we're out there as well, and when we see like the sleeping migs or that kind of thing. But now with adding these additional rotations, specifically more for like the neighborhood cleanup, that should help with that as well. So our outreach team can focus more on that relationship building and support of the people.
That's great. Thank you, Liz. All right, everybody. Anything else while we're all together? All right, I'm not seeing anything. We can go ahead and end the meeting for community members, service providers. If you can stick around, that would be great. Thanks, everybody. Have a good weekend.